Hashtag the poor boy who became unstoppable. At 8 years old, this boy had no shoes. 20 years later, the same people who once laughed at him stood in line just to shake his hand. This is not a fairy tale. This is inspired by countless true stories of children who were told, "You will never make it," and made it anyway. This is the story of Arjun. In a small village called Ramnagar, there stood a broken mud hut. Rain leaked through its roof, always on the same side. Inside, a mother named Mira patched the wall with wet mud, while her 8-year-old son, Arjun, watched quietly. "Ma," he asked, "why does the roof always leak on the same side?" She smiled, tired but warm. "Because we can only afford to fix it partly, beta. One day, we will fix it whole." That night, Arjun's father, Ramesh, came home coughing badly. He sat down, exhausted from the fields. "Mira," he said, "Thakur Sahab raised the rent again. If we don't pay by month's end, he says he'll take our land." "We will manage," Mira replied. "Like we always do." What this family did not yet know was that Thakur Sahab's own son, a boy named Deepak, was about to become the greatest obstacle of Arjun's life. Not once. Not twice. But for the next 20 years. The next morning, Arjun walked to the government school, hope in his eyes. At the gate stood Deepak, well-dressed, surrounded by friends, enjoying the small authority his father's name gave him. "I want to enroll," Arjun said. "My father said the school takes children from the village too." Deepak smirked, blocking the gate. "My father owns half this village, including the land your hut sits on. You think a school gate is going to open for you, when I say no?" "I only want to learn," Arjun said quietly. Deepak leaned in, his voice cold. "Then learn this first. Some gates aren't locked with iron. They're locked with people like me. Now get out of my way, before I have your family's land taken by evening." He shoved past. Arjun stumbled, but he did not fall. He stood there, staring at the gate, and said to no one but himself, "You can lock the gate. You can't lock my future." That sentence would return to him many times in the years ahead. That evening, an old teacher named Master G found him sitting under a tree, trying to draw letters in the dirt with a stick. "What are you doing here, child?" "Trying to write my name, sir. Nobody will let me inside that gate." Master G knelt down beside him. "Then we won't need their gate. Come here every evening. This tree will be your school, and I will be foolish enough to teach you for free." Arjun's eyes widened. "Every single day, sir. I promise." For the next 5 years, Arjun studied under that tree, rain or shine. By day, he carried bricks, sold tea at the bus stand, herded cattle. Every coin went straight to his mother. Every evening, without fail, he was back at that tree. One day, Deepak's car splashed mud on him as he ran to his lesson. Arjun simply wiped it off and kept walking. "Doesn't matter," he muttered. "Words don't wash off with mud." At 16, Arjun sat for a district scholarship exam and scored the highest mark in the entire district. It was a moment of pure triumph. But 2 days later, everything changed. Master G arrived, grim-faced, holding a letter. "Arjun, the scholarship committee says your application was rejected. They claim you cheated on the exam." Arjun stood frozen. "That's a lie. I would never." "I know," Master G said. "But someone submitted a written complaint against you. Someone with influence." What Arjun didn't see was Deepak, now older, smugly folding a letter with his family's seal, handing it to a clerk along with a bribe. "Make sure this reaches the committee before results are finalized," he said. "My father will remember this favor." For the first time, Arjun understood something painful. Talent alone was not enough. Some people don't compete with you. They try to erase you. Arjun did not cry. He did not hide. He walked straight into the scholarship committee's office with Master G beside him. "I did not cheat," he told the officer. "Test me again right now, in front of you, with new questions. If I fail, I will leave and never return. If I pass, you clear my name today." The officer hesitated. That's an unusual request. Give the boy his chance, Master Ji said. That is all he has ever asked for. Arjun sat down. He solved the new test in record time, under full supervision. The officer checked it and went silent for a long moment. In 15 years, he finally said, I have never seen scores like this. The gate Deepak tried to lock a second time didn't hold either. Because some people build walls. Others learn to climb anything. That same year, on a quiet night in the hut, Ramesh lay on a mat, breathing heavily. He was gravely ill. Mira sat beside him, holding his hand, tears falling silently. Arjun knelt close, a small bottle of medicine trembling in his hands. The doctor in town said this medicine works, Baba, he said, voice breaking. Just hold on. I'll find the money somehow, I'll. Ramesh touched his son's face, weak, but strangely calm. Beta, look at me, he whispered. I have carried bricks and plowed fields my whole life, so that one day, you would carry something greater. A future. Don't cry for the years I lived poor. Live, so that no one in this family is ever poor again. Baba, please, don't. Ramesh smiled faintly, proudly. Promise me one thing. When they ask you where you came from, say it with your head high. Ram Nagar made you. Not broke you. His hand went still. Mira's cry broke the silence of the room. Arjun held his father's hand tightly, and for the first time in this story, his own tears finally fell. That night, something in him changed forever. Grief did not make him weaker. It made him terrifyingly determined. The scholarship, finally cleared of Deepak's lie, took Arjun to the city, a place of tall buildings, fast cars, and faster people. But tuition was covered, rent, food, and books were battles he still had to fight alone. He washed dishes at night in a small restaurant, a textbook open beside the sink, studying between orders. One night, he dozed off for a few seconds on a stack of flour sacks. Oi! No sleeping on duty, the restaurant owner barked. Arjun splashed cold water on his face. Won't happen again, sir. He slept 4 hours a night for 4 years. Not because he enjoyed suffering, but because he understood something most people never learn: discomfort today is the price tag on freedom tomorrow. Years later, after being rejected by every company he applied to, Arjun started his own small consulting service. It was barely more than a desk and a laptop. Slowly, it began to grow. Then, one evening, his friend Kavita rushed in, worried. Arjun, the textile client just called. They're pulling out of the contract. That was our biggest deal. Arjun sat down slowly. That contract was supposed to pay 6 months of rent. Why are they pulling out? Kavita hesitated. They said a reliable source told them you falsified your reports on a previous project. Arjun, that's not true, is it? His face hardened. Because what Kavita didn't know was that Deepak, now a mid-level businessman in the same city, had made a phone call that very morning. Just tell them the numbers don't add up, Deepak had said, smug. Doesn't matter if it's true. By the time he clears his name, the contract will already be signed with us. Deepak had followed Arjun's rise for years, quietly, jealously. And now, in the city, he saw one more chance to bury him. Years later, after being rejected by every company he applied to, Arjun started his own small consulting service. It was barely more than a desk and a laptop. Slowly, it began to grow. Then, one evening, his friend Kavita rushed in, worried. Arjun, the textile client just called. They're pulling out of the contract. That was our biggest deal. Arjun sat down slowly. That contract was supposed to pay 6 months of rent. Why are they pulling out? Kavita hesitated. They said a reliable source told them you falsified your reports on a previous project. Arjun, that's not true, is it? His face hardened. Because what Kavita didn't know was that Deepak, now a mid-level businessman in the same city, had made a phone call that very morning. Just tell them the numbers don't add up, Deepak had said, smug. Doesn't matter if it's true. By the time he clears his name, the contract will already be signed with us. Deepak had followed Arjun's rise for years, quietly, jealously. And now, in the city, he saw one more chance to bury him. That night, alone in his office, staring at rejection emails and unpaid bills, Arjun's shoulders sank for just a moment. Then he heard his father's voice in his memory. Ram Nagar made you. Not broke you. He stood up. He opened his laptop. And he began compiling every piece of proof of his work, timestamps, client emails, original reports. Soon after, he sat across from Sethji, a senior businessman considering an investment, and laid it all out calmly. Sir, here is every report, every timestamp, every conversation. I am not asking you to trust my word. I am asking you to trust the evidence. Sethji examined the documents, visibly impressed. Someone tried very hard to make you disappear, young man. And yet, here you are more prepared than anyone who's ever sat in that chair. Arjun did not defeat the lie with anger. He defeated it with proof. And that made the victory permanent. Sethji became an early investor. The firm grew. A business newspaper ran a story with the headline, "The Comeback Nobody Saw Coming." Kavita held up the paper, smiling. They're calling you the most promising entrepreneur in the region. Arjun stared at it quietly. Ram Nagar? I hope you're watching. Years later, a car pulled up outside Arjun's old school in Ramnagar, the very gate Deepak once blocked him from entering. Banners read, Annual Day, Chief Guest, Arjun. A crowd of students, teachers, and villagers waited. Mira, older now, stood proudly near the entrance. The principal addressed the crowd. 20 years ago, a boy stood outside this very gate and was denied entry. Today, that same boy returns, not as a visitor, but as our chief guest. Arjun walked through the gate slowly. He stopped exactly where Deepak had once blocked him. He looked down at the ground for a long moment, then looked up, eyes wet, but proud. In the crowd stood Deepak, older now, humbled by everything that had happened since. He approached hesitantly. Arjun. I tried to bury you. More than once. I don't expect forgiveness. Arjun's voice was steady, without bitterness. Deepak, you gave me a locked gate at 8. A stolen scholarship at 16. A lie that nearly broke my business at 24. Do you know what all three had in common? They all failed. Not because I was lucky. Because a locked gate only stops the person who's waiting for someone to open it. I stopped waiting a long time ago. Deepak lowered his head and walked away quietly. Arjun turned to Master G, now elderly, and touched his feet. I always knew, my boy, Master G whispered, voice trembling. Arjun then addressed the crowd. I am building schools in villages like this one, for children who have nothing but the will to learn, exactly like I once did. Arjun was never given anything easy. No shoes. No fees. No shortcuts. He was given locked gates, stolen chances, buried lies, and a grief no child should carry. What he built instead was a will that refused to accept any of it as the final word. If you are standing today exactly where Arjun once stood, remember this. A locked gate is not a verdict. It is only a test of how badly you want what's on the other side.